And the show is live, orange and blue today. Oops, I got the wrong slide.
So we do that again.
We don't get a do-over in this. That's right.
Whoops.
Whoopsie, that's on me. All right.
Uh-oh.
You saw what our slide was. Well, for the show before they lost to the Texans. Mace, you're back. Jet lag is a real thing, brother. Take care of yourself, man. Take care of
Well,
yourself.
it's not so much jet lag as a very early flight after I was up a little late last night. Just marinating in the game and the day and the weekend. Sometimes it takes me a while to get to sleep. Right? It
Sometimes
happens.
you're wound up and you gotta wind down. And
I would actually say yes that I was wound up. I think a lot of people were wound up yesterday. Everyone has their own reasons for being wound up, right?
That's right.
I have my reasons for being wound up. Some I'll share, some I won't.
Well, we are here for you, orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. What went wrong in the game against the Houston Texans, Mace? It is a lot more than just the Russell Wilson interceptions.
Right. Now, I chose that photo carefully. It's Russell Wilson getting hit by Will Anderson Jr., right? And now, what is interesting is looking at the pressure that he was under. He was under quite a bit of pressure yesterday. But it tells you, okay, there's some O-line culpability in this game, right?
Yes.
There's certainly defensive culpability. I mean, there's a lot of fingerprints on this game. What went wrong? It's not just Russell Wilson, but it's also inaccurate to say that Russell Wilson wasn't a part of things that came undone for the Broncos on Sunday.
Right. First interception tipped. Second, I'm going to blame on the play calls because they're so damn predictable. As soon as I saw Sutton move pre-snap, Mace, I knew what they were going to run. And I'm some slappy on YouTube. So if I know what they're going to run, you bet your ass the Texans knew. And that's why they were able to bait Wilson into that throw to, hey, he's going to go to Sutton when they need him. Everybody knew that, or at least if you study film, you know that. So the second one's actually on the play call, and the third one's just trying to make a play. I do think Lucas Kroll could have made a better effort. Whatever. I'm not going to bang on the kid. He's super inexperienced, but like those Russell Wilson interceptions all have their separate stories.
They do. That's the cliche. Every interception has a story, right? I mean, we've heard that. We've heard that time and again over the years. One thing, though, we'll just kind of talk about it. Could the ball have been placed better to Lucas Kroll and Courtland Sutton on those passes? Yes.
Yes.
You would have liked to have had the ball a little bit more out in front of Courtland Sutton. Not too far. You don't want to overshoot him, right? Could the ball... You're asking a lot on a deep play down the seam. Could it have been a little bit better? Yes. Did Russ kind of, his eyes go in that direction? Yes, they did. On the scramble drill play there at the end that was to Lucas Kroll, could Kroll have made a better effort? Quite possibly. But here's the thing also, Lucas Kroll is the tallest player there. And so if you're Russell Wilson, you want to get that throw up just a little bit more because Kroll is the target, and we know he and Kroll work together after practice. It's something that Lucas has talked about. He knows how tall Lucas Kroll is. He is almost always going to be the highest point. So that's a dude where if you can get the ball up a little bit more, Kroll's got a good chance to get it, just as Courtland Sutton has a really good chance to high point it. So that ball could have been better placed.
Right. And he was under duress. And Kroll at the beginning of that play didn't know what he was doing. He's sitting there like this with his hands up. And as soon as that happened and they snapped the ball, it's like, oh, this is going to be ugly. And then it almost wasn't ugly. And here's the thing, Mace, they played bad football and they almost won. I think there's a silver lining we need to talk about. But yeah, Russ under pressure. Russ needs to place that ball better. But here I'm going to go back to blaming the coaching staff. Hey, that thing that we don't really do, when we need to do it, it doesn't work out well. It's your fault. Wait a second. I said it about Jerry Jeudy in Mile High Monday today. Like, maybe if you had been throwing more, you would have better chemistry with Jerry Jeudy. You would have better chemistry with these other weapons not named Courtland. We get it, Russ, and we understand why. Courtland Sutton's a fine weapon. But it's like they don't do this enough. And then when they need to, Mace, it doesn't work. And then people lose their mind. It's like, maybe they should do it a little more sometimes.
Well, the thing is, A, they're running the ball because they're wanting to play a tempo game, right? But B, a lot of these runs on a week-to-week basis are scrambles, right?
Yep.
They're designed pass plays, but they're designed for Russ to go progression,
run,
make it happen, run, buy time.
Yeah.
Guys break off their routes. It's basically leaning into the notion that Russell Wilson is as best when things are breaking down, that Russell Wilson is a chaos quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh boy, that can get you some big plays. But it may not always keep you on schedule. And then Sean Payton mentioned this morning there was an issue with a pre-snap shift on that pass to Lucas Kroll, and everything kind of broke down from there.
Yep.
And this is where coaching, process, procedure, you can't burn that timeout there coming out of the 2-minute warning. You just can't do that. What in the world? Coming out of a stoppage and you call timeout, that's bad. They came back to back the Broncos in the end.
Yeah, it's bad business. And Mace, wasn't it just a week ago? We're like, wow, we saw 3 phases of good football. And then this week we're like, wow, we saw 3 phases with all mistakes. It was a full team loss. This isn't on Russell Wilson, and we're not Russ apologists, and we're not his best friends. We're not on his Christmas card list, but we're just here to tell you the truth. It's more than just Russ. It was a collapse from the entire team, and they still almost won. Again, that's what's remarkable. The score is not as indicative as how this game seemed.
You know what? I mean, credit to the defense for coming up big in the red zone and just outside the red zone, holding the Texans to field goals. I mean, that was massive. We were talking about the Broncos being in this game, and it was 16-3 in the third quarter, and I got chided for saying the Broncos were still in the game. Hey, you know what? If you're down 2 scores middle of the third quarter, you are still in the freaking game, okay?
Yes.
You've got time. And lo and behold, they march downfield. They get the touchdown pass to Courtland Sutton, and it's a 1-score game again, right? So credit to, the Broncos defense, is at fault in some ways today. Justin Simmons talked about miscommunication. I mean, you look at that second 50-plus pass play to Nico Collins, and Pat Surtain hands him off, and the safety help doesn't come over, all right? That's a miscommunication. That's an error. You can't have that. But you can't have Alex Singleton on 4th down on a false start play losing control. As Sean Payton said, he was bait into it. Actually, you know what? We got some beautiful beam footage. Let's roll the Alex Singleton beautiful beam footage. This is the first part of his Q&A session in the locker room after Sunday's game, where he's asked about the incident with C.J. Stroud. Roll that beam footage, please.
Could you stick to what happened when that unsportsmanlike conduct going on between you and Stroud in the first quarter?
Nothing. I mean, just don't push him.
Looked like you were hit, though, by 69. It shouldn't have been maybe offsetting personal foul?
I mean, they're gonna call it on the quarterback. You know how this league is.
Did he did Stroud headbutt you?
I don't know. I don't care.
Man, a few words. Now, yeah. Watch the replay. You can see there's a little headbutt from C.J. Stroud, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The first contact is Singleton on Stroud. And it looked to me like Singleton could have held up.
Yes.
And didn't quite hold up. Okay,
yes.
Let's be fair here. And then but the thing is, the officials are going to let that go. And then they let go of the jaw jacking from C.J. Stroud. But as Sean Payton said, he baited Alex Singleton into the penalty.
Right.
You've got to keep your cool there. And the result of that is 7 points on the board instead of 3. I mean, shoot. I mean, if Singleton doesn't have that, we're talking about another stop for the defense. When they were going for it on 4th down, so they got him out on 3 downs. Again, the defense as a collective did come up big, in the red zone. I mean, if not for that penalty, you are talking about you're talking about what, 4 field goals and a touchdown. When they got into scoring range, that's pretty dadgum successful, right?
Yeah.
And so the bend but don't break concept, that's still there. I thought the D line actually had a pretty credible game on Sunday as well.
Jonathan Harris was making plays.
This was Jonathan Harris's best game. And actually, it's the kind of game that makes you think, all right, he's learned some things in practice. Maybe do you start working him back into the rotation a little bit more? He was starting earlier this year. He's been a rotational guy since then. Maybe you move Jonathan Harris back up the speed dial a little bit.
Yeah, and well, Mace, I'm gonna have to keep my composure after that Singleton clip because he's like, "Oh, I don't care. No, care, please, for love of God, care." And we know how this league is. If you know how this league is, when that quarterback does a little thing, pat him on the head. Oh, you're so cute. I'm gonna get you next time. Right? Like something. Don't get baited into that. And the fan reaction was just like, dude, come on. We all know this game.
Yeah. And pat him on the head. But I'll tell you what, as Von Miller showed 6 years ago, don't pull out the hand and pull it back.
Right. Exactly.
That was an infamous
Tyrod Taylor, right? That was on Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor, yes.
Yeah.
And he was just having some fun. But this is where you don't leave anything open to interpretation, right? Actually, what's better than the pat on the helmet? Nothing. Walk away. Just walk away. Look, I get that it's hard, all right? In the heat of the moment, it shows in your eyes, as Asia sang 4 decades ago. But in the heat of the moment, you got to find a way to keep your cool, right? We hear from the Broncos a lot. They say, keep your feet where they are. Here, in this case, you want to keep your feet moving away, right? Don't give the officials any reason to be antagonized.
Right.
Just, you got it. But I get that it's hard. We all act emotionally and irrationally, right? We do. It's human
usually
nature.
I do on the post-game show, so.
I like the self-awareness there.
Yeah.
I do like that. I appreciate that. But
the first part of consciousness is be able to say I was wrong in week 3 against Miami. Anyway, let's talk about that. I think this plan was sound. You mentioned it. The bend but don't break. That was working. Okay. You're going to get got on some big plays, whatever. Nico Collins is going to get got. It's CJ Stroud. They're going to go deep, but the defensive plan was sound. And Mace, had Russell Wilson been able to see Jerry Jeudy, I think the offensive play was sound. And if Sutton would have caught one of those first 2 passes, they came out doing exactly what they should have done. Attack that secondary. It just wasn't working. Drop passes, off passes, and missed targets because Russ didn't see Jeudy on the wheel route.
Yeah,
or crossing route.
Yeah. We know Russ is going through his progressions, but man, I do understand Jerry Jeudy's frustration right now, right? The dude's getting open. How long have we been saying this for Jerry Jeudy? He gets open, right?
Yeah, right.
He was frustrated about this with Drew Locke back in his rookie season, right? It seemed like the only quarterback that he's had so far who could really see him open on a consistent basis was Teddy Bridgewater.
Right.
And do you recall off-season and training camp how many plays Teddy and Jeudy were making together, right? Like they looked to be in sync. I remember watching them a couple of days during OTAs that year, and and Teddy is anticipating Judy's break, and they make a couple of plays outside the numbers downfield, and it's just the ball is just kind of dropped in perfectly, and I'm like, whoa, okay, this thing might really work. And then you get to the regular season, and Jerry Jeudy's having a very good season opener, right, against the New York Giants. And he suffers a high ankle sprain, and he's out till the end of October, and he wasn't the same after that. Judy's physically recovered, but I often wonder how things would have been different if he had not had that injury, and even how things would have been different for that team, because clearly the Teddy and Jerry combination actually had a lot of potential that year, I thought.
I'll make you smile with this reference, but how do you feel about your team's execution? Like, I'm in favor of it. Like the
Yep.
execution was
John
off.
McKay said. Yeah,
John
it was.
McKay, world famous.
E-
It was so off. The plan was good. The execution was off.
Everyone was a little off.
Early start. Like, what is that? What is that from, dude? What do you?
Okay, I mean, they had an early start in Miami, but they had an early start in Chicago. Chicago, they kind of fell into a hole. They hit the snooze button, and then they awoke sometime about 2:00 Central Time that day and came roaring back. You can do that against the Bears, a bad team, but yeah, you've had those early starts this year, and none of them have gone well. Fortunately, you don't have any early starts remaining. It's a West Coast game on Sunday in Los Angeles, and then you could have had an early start in Detroit, but now you have a primetime start in Motown on Beethoven's birthday, December the 16th. So,
Right.
and unless we're talking about postseason, the early starts are done. Broncos 1 and 2 in those games.
Couldn't make the comeback. Mike McGlinchey talked about it in the locker room. Here's what the Broncos right tackle, who did not have a good day against the rookie, league leader in pressures for rookies, of course. Here's Mike McGlinchey.
Yeah.
Well, to us, I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't have got that done. We've done it more than probably anybody in the NFL at this point this year, and we were on the goddamn 8-yard line. So we were right there knocking on the door to, punch it in there. We had, I think, 1 or 2 more chances with the clock running down, and one of my good buddies, Jimmy Ward, came down and made a play, and ended the game. So credit to him. He's always been a great player, and he made a play when Houston needed him to the most.
YouTube, don't demonetize us for the swear words. We're sorry. We're sorry.
Oops, my bad.
Yeah, that happens. McGlinchey,
We keep it real, we keep it raw here.
Yeah, exactly. And we got footage from the locker room, man. That's what we're doing here on this show. And yeah, it would have been nice, Mace. But what did you learn? What did you learn? I think that's a question all these Broncos players are answering today and through the rest of the week.
Well, it's funny to mention McGlinchey, all right. He allowed yesterday, what was it? The 3 total pressures, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, according to Pro Football Focus. It was actually interesting. Pro Football Focus did not credit any sacks to the offensive line. Hurries, hits, and pressures, yes, but not sacks.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
again,
very telling.
some of the sacks are on the QB. Pressure, that's kind of part and parcel with this. But in general, yesterday, if we're going to go by total pressures, according to Pro Football Focus, you had just 2 from the left side, 1 from the middle through Lloyd Cushenberry, and 7 from the right side. Quinn Miners, who did tweak his shoulder late, but he came back. He said in the locker room he's fine. Quinn Miners 4 pressures allowed according to PFF, and Mike McGlinchey 3. And it's worth mentioning the right side because when Sean Payton was asked today about the pressures allowed, he went right to that right flank. Let's roll that bean footage.
Well, there's probably 2 or 3 different things. There's push from the right side. We've got to be able to stop that. All right. And you give them credit. They've got a good group. They got a good young group of guys that can rush the passer. We leave a little early a couple times, and then pretty soon your pocket's compromised, and now you're better off just being out of the pocket. So just from a consistency standpoint, I thought we handled some of the better play action stuff. Our protections were good, for some of the down the field throws, but down in and down out, we've got to be more consistent there.
A lot to glean from Coach Payton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Started by throwing the right flank under the bus.
Completely. Totally under the bus.
Beep, beep, beep.
Backing it up in the forklift is Sean Payton. And I like what he said about being comfortable. Like once that pocket's compromised, it's actually better to be out of the pocket.
I think so. And again, It's Russell Wilson, one progression, two progression, take off, make things happen, move around, right? I mean, you're basically, it's an acknowledgement that you have to do things differently with Russell Wilson. And to his credit, Sean Payton has by and large leaned into that. And that's hard because most offensive coaches like to keep things on schedule, on script, and they like things to have a rhythm, right?
Yep.
It's why, for example, even though he doesn't have signature wins and he's come up short in some clutch moments, Kirk Cousins has a lot of value because he can hit his marks and be incredibly precise within the framework of a scheme.
Yep.
He's not a chaos quarterback. He's not a scramble drill quarterback. And he works flawlessly when things are on schedule. But then when something goes wrong, that's when it goes a bit askew. Going in the Wayback Machine, if you were a Broncos fan around the turn of the century, you remember Brian Griese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brian Griese, when everything was done well, when the blocking was sound, when the receivers ran the routes perfectly, he was always on schedule, always on time. And that went right to Mike Shanahan's heart. Like, okay, this guy can be reliable at running the play that I designed.
And what was
my
Bubby
vision
like?
and
Describe
Bubby
what
was
Bubby
a
was
chaos
like.
quarterback. He would wing
Exactly.
it, right?
Exactly. Yep. And coaches, I'll add on to this conversation, Mace. Coaches think they're the smartest people on the planet, and they think their system. Sean Payton could have thrown Russell Wilson under the bus all season long. He could have humiliated Russell Wilson all season long. And to Sean's credit, he's working a system that works for Russ. And to Russ's credit, he's not fighting it. Russ is eating the biggest piece of humble pie. So, again, we got to talk about all this, but it's remarkable what Sean Payton is doing and not forcing his quarterback to run something he can't.
Right. Like, it works for Sean Payton. Yeah, it worked best with Drew Brees because Drew, he had such a quick processor, drop 1, 2 through the progressions go. I mean, everything was on schedule with Drew Brees. It was metronomic in its efficiency in New Orleans. And it was a perfect marriage of coach, scheme, and quarterback. It's why Drew Brees is going to be a Hall of Famer. It's why his name is all over the top 3, top 4 of the NFL record books, right? It's been a little bit different for Sean Payton without Drew Brees, although it's very interesting in the last few years to look at some of his quarterbacks. And you look at Teddy Bridgewater, and he had a 99.1 rating in 2019 when he played for Sean Payton. Jameis Winston, I believe, was 102.8 in 2021, starting for Sean Payton. Bridgewater, 5 starts. Winston, 7 starts. Here we are with Russell Wilson, 12 starts. He's got a 99.0 rating. So it's a different path to a relatively similar spot. But that's when you have to ask yourself the question, if you're the Broncos, are we getting our money's worth when there is a pattern of Sean Payton finding the most from quarterbacks, even ones like Bridgewater and Jameis Winston, who are lower on the salary scale, when you have that $37 million anvil that's sitting up there waiting to be dropped if the Broncos have Russell Wilson on the roster for the 5th day of the league year. That's why this conversation isn't going away.
Yeah, the conversation isn't going away, and there's no answer right now. You said it this morning on a coffee break. We just got to see the next 5 games.
We do.
We have to see what Russ looks like.
We got to let it play out. By the way, do we want to hear what Sean Payton said about the passing game?
Let's play that beautiful bean footage.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's probably a combination of 2 or 3 things. I think it starts with protection. I think the communication's got to be on point. We finished the game yesterday. The last play of the game, we leave a shift off. And so at the snap of the ball, you have 3 receivers that are trying to run a route, but they haven't shifted into their final formation. So my experience has always been it's the details. It's the little things, and those things have to be better.
It's the details, it's the little things. And yeah, ultimately, the quarterback out there is the conductor of the orchestra, right?
Mm-hmm. He's saying a lot without saying a lot.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's profound. It's like a tiny Buddha.
A miniature Buddha wrapped in hair. Baxter.
Exactly. There you go,
Yes.
Baxter.
Oh, Baxter.
The
touched
bad
my
man
toe.
punted my dog.
Oh, you pooped in the refrigerator and you ate the whole wheel of cheese? I'm not
You're
even mad. That's amazing. Oh gosh.
Oh, yeah,
Baxter. It's a good name. It's also the name of the Arizona Diamondbacks mascot, believe it or not. Trivia right there.
There's your trivia on an orange and blue today. Any sort of final thoughts to wrap up the show, Mace? I think there's a lot of blame to go around, but when you play that poorly and you can almost win, that's also a positive sign. And the rest of these 5 games, sure, give them the Detroit game if you want, but Detroit is beatable. You could go on another 5-game win streak, Mace. You might need to if you're thinking playoffs.
But this game is also a reminder that the Broncos are in that muddled middle and it can get away from them easily.
Yep.
And look, we talked about the role of luck and randomness in this whole thing, right? The Broncos were doing a lot of things well. They were getting lucky in terms of the giveaway takeaway. Yesterday, they were -3 with the 3 interceptions and no takeaways. The fumble, the third quarter fumble, Jaquan McMillan with a great play on the strip sack of C.J. Stroud. The ball comes out. And did you not think that Jonathan Cooper was going to scoop up that ball, fall on it? That was it.
Yep.
He was right there. You had a sea of white jerseys. It was all there. And honestly, sitting in the press box seats, I was shocked that the Broncos didn't recover the fumble. Everyone was, right? You look down, then all of a sudden, like, wait, the Texans have the ball? What?
Yeah.
What?
And Daryl Ngabawale is the one that got it. So there's your Shrine game reference. I think we saw Dare at the Shrine game.
Don't forget that he is the emergency kicker for the Texans, hit a big field goal for them
did.
against Tampa Bay last month, right?
He did.
I mean, the guy's got a lot of roles to him. So regression started to hit you in terms of the giveaway takeaway. And then on the other side, you had regression to the mean there. You had ascension to the mean for Will Anderson Jr. You mentioned earlier in the show, Will Anderson Jr. came into the game leading the all rookies in pressures, but he was sitting there with 3.5 sacks? It hadn't translated. Well, look at Will Anderson's day yesterday. The deflection on the first interception, whether he got to Riley Dixon or not, got to the ball on the Riley Dixon punt or not, he certainly was an obstruction and issue that led to a 22-yard punt that gave the Texans good field position on which they capitalized. And then, of course, the 2 sacks. So you had some statistical normalization going on that worked against the Broncos in that game. And it's a reminder, like, they're going to have to find ways to win games without having the giveaway takeaway in their favor. On the positive side, they almost did. They almost won
did.
that game.
Right. And that's why it grinds my gears, Mace, when we heard last week when you and I were saying exactly.
Really grinds my gears.
You know what grinds my gears is when last week we were saying the turnover thing won't continue. Like, you have to be ready. And, they're doing it. Let's go Broncos. Like, oh, God, yes, please. But know that is unusual. That is an unusual run, an unusual stretch. When things go back to normalcy, you've got to win in different ways. And they almost did.
Yeah, they almost did. But it's a reminder that this team's going to be playing on the edge. They're facing a Chargers team next Sunday that certainly is in poor form right now, but they're going to be a desperate team coming into that game. They're a game back of the Broncos here. And actually, realistically, I wouldn't say it's an elimination game for the Broncos if they lose, but they're sitting there with 6 losses. They can afford one more, right, to feel good. Yep. If it's 9-8 for this team, they've got to hope a bunch of things happen. They need to be 4-1 down the stretch. They're underdogs going into this Chargers game if you go by the Vegas odds, if you put any stock into that. They will certainly be underdogs in Detroit. I expect them to be favored at home against L.A., at home against New England, with New England coming before L.A., obviously, on Christmas Eve. And then a slight favorite when they go out to Vegas in Week 18. So there you go. You're probably going to have to win all the games in which you're favored and steal one of the ones in which you're an underdog. So that's where the Broncos put themselves, right?
All right.
That's what happens when you start 1-5.
By the way, I know this isn't powder blue and gold today. 6 points. 6-0. New England Chargers, 6-0.
I kind of want to go back and watch that game because it seemed like it was just awful.
Yes,
a rainy day in
Mhm.
Foxborough.
Right.
Two
Miserable.
Two teams whose fan bases are miserable right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
New England, New England's awful. But here's the thing. Bill Belichick may well be on the opposite sideline next year, coaching for the Chargers.
They'll be in the AFC West. They'll get someone to run the offense. So, hell, it might be Josh McDaniels to get the best out of Justin Herbert, right?
Shouldn't Josh just take his $60 million, the rest of the $60 million that he's got left, and just go sit by a pool somewhere?
He should, but we know him enough to know that he's too stubborn to do that. Are you telling me I'm not good? Bill, can I have my job back, please? That's right. Okay, Mace. I feel better.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you know what? I like to make people feel better just by my presence and just by my words. I'm glad I make you feel better. I hope I make the audience feel better. Yeah. Means a lot to me.
There we go.
That's what I do.
We care. That's what we do. It's Orange and Blue today. Make sure to help us out on YouTube here. We're growing our YouTube channel, and we appreciate you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. Hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And if you've commented in the chat room, whatever side it is for you, comment down below. It helps the YouTube algorithm, especially when Mike McGlinchey cusses. It hurts our YouTube algorithm. We're fine. Anyway, he's Mace. I'm Cease. OBT is a BFD. Sorry, YouTube. Stay tuned and stay frosty.